What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Import Modify. On this episode, we'll be focusing mainly on the intake manifold on the RB25. Got quite a bit to figure out on this thing to make it work, and boom, got me a package in the mail, so we're gonna unbox this. Stay tuned. So there's the fuel rail. I put it on the intake just to see how it would actually look, and I gotta say it's pretty nice for the price I paid. Now this is an eBay item. I got it off of eBay. It's a Sport JDM. If you look up RB25DET fuel rails, they'll come up, and you can find them in the search. The price ranges from seller to seller. I was able to find this one for like 40 something, 50 bucks roughly would it shipped. But I think for $50 you can't beat it. It definitely looks better than this shit right here. So only thing is it has AND fittings on it, and I'm gonna have to modify the fuel system. Now they do make specialized fittings for the hard lines with the little ferrules that you can clamp down and it'll seal, and then I'll just run some AND lines up, a little 180 AND fitting right here to run the fuel line back, and then one off of here, and one of the lines will go to an aftermarket fuel pressure regulator. And I was looking at fuel pressure regulators, and off the reviews that I was reading, I'm probably going to end up getting a Blocks fuel pressure regulator with the built-in, well, not built-in, but it has the fuel pressure gauge on the regulator itself. So I've read good reviews on the Blocks, and I'm probably going to go with that brand. All right, moving on, we're going to go ahead now and start the assembly of the intake manifold. The intake manifold right here, like I stated on my last episode, it's very loose. I need to get some JB Weld and just put that on there and let it sit overnight to cure in place. A lot of people have done that to these intake manifolds and had success doing that. And some of them are very high horsepower builds. Not that horsepower has anything to do with the coolant system, but just putting it out there. But anyway, I'm gonna take this off real quick, and then we'll get to figuring out the intake manifold and getting some pieces put on. Okay guys, another day in the garage. I did get some packages in for the RB25. So let's go ahead and unbox them real quick and see what we got. All right, I finally got this package in. I've been waiting quite a while for this to come in. And this is the rear head drain, and it's from Franklin Engineering out of New Zealand. I actually do have some subscribers to my channel from New Zealand. So guys, this is out of y'all's neck of the woods, but it is a quality piece. I came across a couple of different designs when I was looking for one, and this one by far I think is the prettiest. And looking at it, at the overall quality of it, it feels like a good piece. Like you know, they put some effort into it. It is just a solid billet block that, you know, goes on the back. Now it's going to be on the back of the head. Not a lot of people are going to see it, but you know, for the money, $110. I think it was $130 after shipping. You can't beat it. I mean, it's a really good looking piece. And also the way that it works is this little freeze plug port on the back of the head right here. Not the bottom one, guys, the top one. This one's for the coolant. This one right here is just actually opens up to a galley that shares between the two areas of the cam. So you're gonna punch this one in to where you can get it loose, and then you're gonna pull it out. And then what you have to do is drill and tap 2 bolt holes right here. And this has some slots on the side of it, allow you to angle it either way. And then basically you have an O-ring that makes a seal, but whenever I go to mount it up, I'm gonna put RTV inside the orifice right here. So when I do push it in, it's gonna make 100% seal once it cures. And probably I'm just gonna putting it on and angling it a little bit to give me maximum clearance from the bell housing. We'll put our adapter on right there, and then we'll run the hose down to here. Now this is a -6 and these are -8, so I'm gonna have to get me an adapter that's gonna make this all work. So, but these are the pieces it came with. A little angled 45-degree angled adapter and a 90-degree angled adapter. It gave me a bung right there in case you wanted to weld one to a pan. We don't have to worry about that. Some mounting hardware, and that's pretty much it. Also they gave me a hose too. So it's a complete kit for the most part to make it all work, and for the price I think it is a good buy. So if you guys have an RB25, I highly recommend that you do this mod to it, because at high RPMs this thing likes to not drain well in the head. So this will ensure that the head does drain, so it'll be good to go. You only have one drain right here, and then you have 2 drains inside the head. So adding that one will give you an additional drain in the back side of the head, so you don't have to worry about oil pulling up and starving the sump of oil, and end result starving the bearings. And at that point you're gonna kiss those bearings goodbye. So that is added insurance. After doing some research on this Freddy intake, some people complained that it's not truly flat on the mating surfaces where the coolant ports are at, causes it to leak. So I'm gonna take my straight edge, I'm gonna measure it, make sure everything is flush, just to be 100% sure that I don't have that problem on this. And basically you're gonna double side the RTV whenever you put the gasket on. You're gonna put RTV in here, here, and here, and also on the ports on the intake here, here, and here on the bottom side of it where it seals. And that way when you torque it down, you give it the adequate time, you'll have 100% seal and you won't have to worry about any coolant leaks. So you guys that are going to take on a project like that, y'all be sure to do that as well. Double check everything, so that way you're not cursing later on that you got to take stuff back apart. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to clean up a couple little pieces, and from there we'll get back to the intake manifold so that we can get this thing mounted to the engine. And then after that I'll have to figure out all of the routing of the hoses and stuff. Anyway, let's go ahead and get some stuff done. So here's what it looks like with the idle air control valve refinished, and also this, I don't know exactly what this is called, but it's like maybe a evap solenoid. I'd have to look that up. I don't know exactly what this is off the top of my head, but I did refurbish that as well. It looks very nice. And also I bead blasted and recoated the thermostat housing outlet. And also I took care of the head oil drain for the front of the head. Got it all nice and painted up. These parts were really nasty. They took me quite a while to get them to the condition that they're in, and also I ended up getting a little bit of RTV on the intake itself, so I had to scrape it off. And when I did that, I took a little bit of the wrinkle paint off, so I just shot a little bit on top of that just to touch it back up. So anyway, it took me quite a while to get this done, and also installed the sensors here for the sender, the gauge on the coolant, and also for the computer coolant temp sensor. So cool deal. This right here puts me in a good position for the next day I come in. I can get this all mounted up on the engine. I still need to make sure that the surfaces are indeed straight before I put that on, but cool deal, guys. I will see you guys on another day. Alright guys, I'm trying to get things done in a timely manner, but I keep running into little things that are slowing the progress down. But in the last clip, well, previous clip in this episode, you saw that I did some touch up on the top of the intake manifold. Well, this is another day. I came back and it was not even at all. It was like nice and shiny right where I did the touch up. So I had to mask everything off on the backside right here and then repaint everything back even again. So I got everything on this back even. Nice texture, everything looks good in unison. And also I've been, you know, blasting and painting other parts of the engine. The dipstick tube itself looks like I'm gonna have enough room because the pan does come out a little bit in the way of the orifice right here where the dipstick tube goes. And one of my watchers has the same oil pan, and he mentioned that problem, and I completely forgot about that issue whenever I put the pan on. But it is not really an issue with this dipstick tube. I did the measurements, and I have 32 millimeter worth of room to push this in, and this is like 31 millimeter in length, so that's not going to be an issue putting the tube in at all. The issue is going to be with the actual dipstick itself. I'm trying to get as much done as I can in this episode without it being a long time span before I release the episode. So anyway, I don't think I'm going to have time to put the drain on the back of the head, and I don't think I'm going to have time to route all the hoses and everything on the intake manifold. So that's probably going to be in the next episode. I apologize for that, but things are what they are. I'm just running out of time, and I keep running into little snags here or there, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and continue on this thing and see how far we can get. Alright guys, I got the dipstick tube all the way in, and it was no problem fitting. Like I said before, the measurements, they showed that I had room, so it did indeed fit. So basically what I did from there was I pushed the dipstick tube in all the way, and then I measured the amount of room between here and the tube, and I took that measurement, and then I cut that off of the dipstick right here. So I got that taken off. Now that I have it off, it put it right at the right below the H. Y'all can see that. So I cut off right below the H, and this right here at the end is gonna sit right at the bottom of the pan. So looking at it now, it goes in all the way. And then from there, I took a measurement about where I wanted the height of the oil to be in the pan. And the pan, it sits about right here. And that's about how much oil level I would like it to be on the bottom of the pan. And that measurement there, 16 millimeter. And 16 millimeter on the dipstick tube puts me right at the top of the notch. So I know that when oil meets the top of this notch right here, that the oil pan is full. So that's what I came up with. You guys that are using the CX Racing oil pan, I hope this helps y'all. That's what I came up with, and it should work and be adequate for this oil pan. So we got that figured out. Good to go on that. So from now, let's go ahead and continue on. All right, guys, so I took my straight edge to it, like I stated earlier. And basically, I just went across like this, across the whole middle part with the straight edge. And then I made my measurement. I started with 100 thousandths, and I was able to pass it through right here and a little bit right there. So I just took the sanding block to it, sanded it down nice and even, rechecked my measurements. Now everything is true and flush. I just pretty much evened out the surface. It was a little uneven in certain areas. So I just took care of that with the sandpaper. Guys, make sure you go ahead and do that with the Freddy intake. I read a review from a guy that put it on. He had leaks on the coolant ports, but he did not use RTV. But just to save the headache, I went ahead and did this. So we're good on this now. So I'm gonna clean the surfaces up a little bit, and then we're gonna get on to mounting it to the head. Well guys, I finally got that Freddy intake on, and I'm going to tell you, it wasn't easy. There was a couple holes on the bottom that didn't quite line up. I had to take a carbide bit with an angle drill and make the holes bigger in order to get the bottom bolts to line up. It was just two of them. One was right here and the other one was right there. This one, it just on the beginning of the hole, I just had to get it a little bit bigger. That wasn't that big of an issue. But that one right there, I had to make it big all the way through in order to get that hole to line up for the bolt. But I was able to knock that out. I was racing against the clock because I had the RTV drying, and it wasn't the easiest thing to do. My best advice to you guys is to make sure that all the bolt holes line up before you even attempt to put it on. I was pretty sure that they did. With the studs were lining up perfect, and the ones along the top seemed to line up good, so I didn't care to look at the ones on the bottom. Shame on me, but I learned my lesson on this. And some of the bolts, they're 13 millimeter. You can't fit a boxed in wrench on them. You have to use the open end. So it's a little bit tricky. And I did get the fuel injectors in, so I decided to mount the fuel rail and test it out. Everything looks to be fitting up just fine. The only problem I see is look where my dipstick tube is at. And I'm still able to get it out, but it's kind of in the way. I'll have to figure something out on that later, but I did go with the 370cc injectors. These are the stock size injectors. I decided to keep it with the stock size because I'm gonna have the stock ECU whenever I crank it up. I'd like it to be able to run with the least amount of headache, really. I just want to get the thing running, and then from there I'll go ahead and get everything operating like it should be, and that'll allow me to go through everything, the engine, everything, and then later on, once I start turning up boosts and all that other stuff, I'll start improving these things. Just for simplicity's sake, right now I decided to go with the stock size. That's the reason why I did that. But these adapter pieces right here that fit where the O-rings go for the stock O-rings, this is what allows you to fit the top feed injectors. And I'm gonna tell you that I had to get a little creative, because the stock O-rings they sent are this size right here. Now they're too thick to push in. I've tried to press them in, and I tried to press them in, and I was unsuccessful. I'll use lubrication, whatever. I wasn't able to press them in. So this is the size O-ring that I had to stretch over it. That little guy right there. I had to stretch those over these billet fittings right there, and once I stretched it over, it was easy for me to press those in. So that's the only fight I had with it. But other than that, everything pretty much fell in place pretty easy. So $50 fuel rail, it's well worth the cost. And cool thing with the injectors, they gave me these pigtails right here so that you can make it work, and they work pretty easy. Just push in the clip, fall into place, good to go. And quick note on this intake, it's easier to deal with this intake if you put the thermostat housing on afterwards and the solenoid for the cam gear afterwards. It's damn near impossible to get it in with these two. I had to take this off in order to slide it on. But if you just have these off and then put it on, it'll be a lot easier. You still have access to the bolts and everything underneath, but we are to a good point. I just gotta slap the crank gear on, the dampener on. That's not a big deal. I do have it in the back, I just hadn't got to it yet. I did paint up the pulley for the water pump, so things are moving along pretty good. And I thought that we would be able to have time enough to put the coolant lines in and the rear head drain, but I guess I'll go ahead and I'll do that on the next episode. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up, guys. I'm pretty beat for today. I have enough content. I'm gonna wrap up all the video, and then after I get it all edited out, I'll release it. So I'm gonna conclude it. You guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.